Great to be here on launch day with all of you and with Stephanie, so thank you so much. So Stephanie, you have been in this CHRO role for about a year now, and you have been focused on creating what you call a people-first leadership culture. So what is that, and what have you been doing this year?
Yes, so it's been a very busy year, and I will say, I joined HR over a year ago, coming from the business. I was one of the general managers for one of our businesses within the L'Oreal portfolio, and it's very humbling. I was always very proud to be a teammate to my HR business partner, but now I can see it's not just a partnership, it's an integral relationship. So that's really important, and thank you all for being here. So people-first leadership culture, a lot of people talk about a people-first strategy. I don't think anyone in this room would question that they're not a people-first focused organization or leader. But for us, what was really important was this idea of leadership. So what do you do for a people-first leadership culture? And all of the words are inherently important. And so for us, leadership and the people space was about powering the business, to drive the business forward. So how do we create an empowered people-first leadership culture that drives the business forward? And what that looks like at L'Oreal and what we see as the way forward, particularly, I've actually gone through an HR transformation this year too, so, learn a new function, transform the organization, change the culture. And it's about a three-way relationship between employees, HR, and people managers. And I know that's something super powerful in your book, Erica, but all of those relationships matter. So what is the role of HR to employees, HR to people managers to employees, that allows that people-first leadership culture, all with a lot of energy and momentum, to happen? So that's been really key for us, to think about it in that way, and not just as HR, but I have the same messages that I share with my people managers and employees too.
Great. Let's talk a little bit more about the people managers, because as you said, a lot of you might have seen in the news, even in the last couple of months, companies getting rid of middle managers. We're going to flatten these organizations. I believe that managers are having a moment, which is what I call the chapter in the book, and that we need to elevate and celebrate our managers. It's almost the opposite of what's going on in many companies. And you've done some really amazing things in that area. So share what you've been doing.
Well, first of all, thank you, Erica, because Erica has also been working with me and my team for the past year, which has been amazing. And about 3 weeks ago, we had our second ever People Manager Town Hall. And it was for 3,000 of our people managers. So if you had one direct report, you were invited to the People Manager Town Hall. And it was because managers are having a moment, but managers are always having a moment. And instead of thinking of them as middle managers, I love this, what you shared with me, which is no, they're at the center. So not middle managers, but managers at the center. And not just in our work, but also in our everyday lives, in our relationships, and how powerful and important. And actually, we've seen in our annual employee survey the direct correlation between the results of people managers and their entire populations. So by focusing on those 3,000 people managers, it not only elevates the relationship between the people managers and employees, right, but also the role of HR empowering them. So it was kind of a stealth way of marketing. I'm a former reformed marketer. Marketing HR in a new way that's kind of cool for those people managers to feel really engaged and empowered too.
Right, and it has this ripple effect, because
absolutely,
the more that you elevate and train and support those managers, who you all know, these managers are managing at a time, and you're right, they're always having a moment, but I would say over the last 3 years, they're getting it from the top down. They're on the front lines. I say they're on the front lines of this retention revolution. They're having to talk to everyone about all of the mental health challenges that we've been having as a society. They're the ones implementing the flexible work when the boss says, oh, we're going from 3 to 4 days. Great, take it, go for it. So I think what you're doing is really makes sense.
It's interesting too, because it's across your entire organization. So you have people leadership and management skills that you need to have in operations, that you need to have in your sales teams. They're going to be slightly different based on those populations, but inherently they're also very much the same, which I think is really powerful. And exactly that tension is so true. So how many of you saw the Barbie movie? All right, so that's a lot of us, or at least you know about it. Let's hope that you've seen something pink in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
So one thing that I said in the People Manager Town Hall a few weeks ago, I was like, managers have this constant tension, which is like the monologue in Barbie. So, there's America Ferrera is giving this monologue, and she's like, you have to be this and not that, and it's this push and pull. And I said to the people managers, you need to be in the weeds, but give them space. You need to be empowering, but not on top of them. And it's this, you need to be there for them, but not too much there for them. And it feels like this tension. And so I think it's really important that we empower our people managers with skills, and also that give them the space and grace that it's not going to be easy all the time.
It is not. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. One of the topics that I have been obsessed over, always, but even more in the last couple of years, is onboarding. I think we've onboarded a lot of people during the pandemic. People get onboarded and they don't even meet their team. And it used to be you show up and you get the key to the bathroom, and you get a laptop and a password, and you went on your day. And in the book, I talk about this concept of start as you mean to go on. That you get one chance to make that first impression on someone's first day, and it's a big opportunity. So how do you think about onboarding?
I think it's so absolutely critical. The start as you mean to go on, I think it's very powerful. And of course, we're here from day one, so there's that also.
Yes,
it's the
from
community,
day one. Get it?
From day one. Exactly.
Start as you
it's
mean
the
to go
community that you create, but for us, it starts way before. I want all of you to be interested in the organization because you're also consumers. So we start really far ahead in the employee journey and all the way through that internal development, cross-boarding, and all the way through the alumni, because at the end of the day, whether you retire or you choose another organization, you're also still a consumer, and you're also fueling our future pipe and individuals that want to join us. So all of those moments matter, and onboarding is so crucial to get right, and then the cross-boarding and all of the other pieces that come with it.
Yeah, I heard a really interesting onboarding story recently, just sort of share it as I know all of you as people leaders out there. We're dealing with, in many organizations, 4 or 5 generations working and living together under one roof in many companies. And this company shared that during their onboarding, everybody goes through this generational differences presentation so that they get a sense, because we might study this, but they don't know it. And a friend of mine who pre-read my book recently said, oh my gosh, I was reading about this generational onboarding, and she said, now I know why, as somebody who's Gen X, like I am, picks apart all the arguments. She goes, I was just told I was being annoying, but it's actually a generational thing. So I think building community from day one, I just thought I would share. That's kind of funny. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk to you about is, and it's really connected to your idea of being a people-first leadership culture, is that this idea of how being human at work, being a human professional is not an oxymoron. And one of the things that I saw, and I'm sure we all saw during the pandemic, is many leaders were more human. Some, it came to them naturally, and others, it was by default because the kids were in the background, the dogs were barking, the spouse was going into the fridge. But many people in companies were like, I kind of like this side of my boss. And so how do you think about this idea of being more human at work, and how do you help others do that as well?
I think we no longer actually pull people apart. I often even talk about there's the work and life and work-life balance. Why are they so separate? Isn't work part of it, within the whole construct of it? And it makes us all more open and encouraging of others to show up as their whole selves when we show up as our whole selves as leaders. It's one way to create that community, create that connection from the beginning, to start as you mean to go on. And it's so essential for authenticity, for all of us to show up in that way. And it's not easy. I think that leaders often struggle with the amount of vulnerability they want to show, or how they can be empathetic but also show the presence in their leadership ability. And there's a way that if we all do that to a different level, we're actually encouraging everyone to give their best. And certainly for a company like L'Oreal, it's essential. That's what we do.
Right.
We want to create the beauty that moves the world. We want our employees to come exactly as they are, because that's what we're trying to create for consumers. So we need to live it inherently in our business as well.
But there's a lot of companies that say this, but I feel like I've heard you talk to people about head and heart.
Yes.
Is that where it comes together for you? And you seem to make it very explicit, and not just hoping people, show up like this.
I think, we're inherently an entrepreneurial company. We actually use that as one of our values, is an entrepreneurial spirit. So for a very big organization, so globally more than 80,000 employees, in the US more than 11,000, that's kind of tough. Like, how do you create those individual personal relationships? But for us, that's really, really key. And you can't separate the two. You need to have that gut feeling, entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial spirit, and how you show up. And also that's where creativity comes from. That space, you have to have the foundation of inclusivity to have innovation for people to thrive and have different ideas.
And I think, and I know you do this, but we as leaders need to model it, because
Yes.
if we're not doing it, nobody else is. So let's switch gears. One of the other things I think about a lot these days is professional and personal development. Mm-hmm. And there's a chapter in the book that's called From Ladders to Lily Pads, because again, gone are all the different rungs in the ladder, and we need to get creative about how we move people around the organization and almost create our own ecosystem of opportunity, let's say within L'Oreal, so that someone doesn't leave to find that somewhere else. So how do you think about that? And do you think about that?
Absolutely, and personally, I think I'm a very good example of this. I was in different parts of the organization. Actually, my background is in chemistry. I worked for a chemical company. I moved from the sciences into the product development, into marketing and general management, from general management into people experience and HR. So we very much believe in growing the skill set with the inherent culture of the organization. And we're a big company, so I know we have companies of all different sizes here. We can do that internally. But it's also really important that if you're not, and Erica speaks about it in the book too, that you've got to also let people go and they can come back with different skills from different levels as well. And we very much believe it and we support it. And I feel that what I love at L'Oreal is that people can have many different careers within the same organization, but also that we welcome people back with open arms.
Yeah, there's been, I'm sure a lot of you have seen even the articles yesterday and the day before, Salesforce, and forget the company I saw yesterday, but this idea of everyone saying come back, and it kind of depends on how they left.
Right.
Did you leave with open doors? Did you leave with did you help your employee leave gracefully? Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. It's smart for your company to do it, because even if they're not working there, you want them to be a brand ambassador or buying the lipstick and the hairspray and whatever else. So really important to think about. So let's get a little human with us right here, right now. We both have kids, and you have 2 boys. And in the midst of your big day job and a global pandemic and all the other things that you do, you decided to write a book.
Yes.
So what led you to write this book, and give us the highlights?
Sure. So it's interesting. A lot of people actually say it kind of in a similar way, and I'm like, yes, some people decided to have a sourdough starter. I decided to write a quant research study and then write a book. But it was something that for me had been sitting with me for a long time. So my sons are 9 and 5, and personally, I didn't ever think that it was impossible to be a CEO and a mother until I experienced loss at my desk. And I realized that I wasn't alone, because I would share that story behind closed doors, always kind of secret. And I recognized my privilege in that I was in an organization with paid leave, with a working spouse, and I felt awful. And I didn't know if that was truly possible. For that first moment, rocked my core. I couldn't just work harder and still have these things that I always wanted. And so from that moment, I would mentor people, and I teach at FIT. I also really enjoy that coaching piece of my job, and of course now it's become much more important. But that was just one-on-one relationships. So I thought, with my own experiences, how could I start, and during the pandemic, writing a grant for quant research to make sure it was census validated? Was it across all industries, different lengths of tenure, how far away it was you, based off of your demographics? Was it the same experiences? And from that, did the data, but added a lot of stories. And the book is a compilation of both things that are true, and ways that people can really experience a very important work-life intersection of pregnancy and work in a way that makes them feel more empowered, and also gives tools to all of those around them.
Wow, that's amazing. And who are some of the people that you interviewed for the book?
Well, you, Erica.
It sounded like a softball.
So I really made sure that there was both aspirational stories that people could aspire to. For example, there's some Olympic athletes. Megan Duggan, 2-time gold Olympian, who had two children, ice hockey, who had 2 children with her wife, Jillian Abs, and her quote in the book is, having children made my winning a gold medal look like a regular Wednesday. I was like, that's pretty cool, because one thing that we were thinking about, and I certainly have heard from individuals, female identifying birthing people primarily, is that they have on their shoulders, and why it's called Carry Strong, this notion that pregnancy and some of these major work-life moments are a career killer. But instead, it can be like better than winning a gold medal. So my goal was not just to flip the script, but to make sure it was presented in a really balanced and fair way so that people could see the really great parts, but also very, very vulnerable, deep personal stories from women they admire or maybe that they relate to in a different way. And I gave it a lot of breathing room. So instead of saying, so as you heard in this person's story, I actually left them intact, in between chapters, explaining principles and phases so that people could feel less alone.
Yeah, well, it's really amazing. I was not talking about myself. I meant like the Olympic athletes and the really cool people that you interviewed for the book. All right, so we're gonna start to wrap up. Talk a little bit more about this HR transformation that you've been through, and I guess what advice do you have for people here that are going through, whether it's a big HR transformation, a small, or really any type of transformation as we think about especially what's gone on over the last couple of years?
I mean, I think more than ever, we've seen in the past 3 years a huge momentous change in the way we work. For the first time, we had people shedding light on hybrid work. I actually saw a statistic 2 weeks ago that was we were at the highest level labor participation of women with children under 5. We had 3 years ago shocking headlines that we would never regain the attrition and the positive impact to our GDP from working parents. And now we're seeing the highest labor participation. So there's glimmers of hope within this very intense moment. So that's one. 2, the role of HR has never been more powerful. I can say that personally. I very much enjoy when I see the path to some of these major leadership positions also includes HR, which I think is super powerful. And the last part is that transformation is a marathon. It is not a sprint. I was working on a brand, SkinCeuticals, which is very science-backed, and we used to always say with this big sign above one of the doors that says, good science takes time. It's a really helpful thing to think about, and I very much believe that good leadership also takes time. So with your transformation, listen. When something feels sticky, survey. When you're not sure about a decision, test. But also make sure you're giving yourself time and space to see real results. It's not gonna happen in 3 months. You're not gonna have those key metrics. In fact, if they don't go down, that means you're not really transforming. So take time, appreciate the people that are on your team, and enjoy, because truly, people managers are having a moment, but HR is having a moment for sure.
I would agree. HR is having a moment, and I would just say, agree with all that. And we've got to be intentional, because left to our own devices, right, excusing the cheesy pun, we're not connecting, and we're not connecting with each other in this world where hybrid is great, but it's moments, creating these moments that matter, and bringing people together, kind of like what we are doing today, helps take these ideas to a new level. So with that, thank you so much. Thank you for being with me here on my big day, and to let all these amazing people hear from you. So proud of you and excited for what's to come.
Thank you, and thank you, Erica, and everyone. Congratulations, Erica, again on her launch day for the Retention Revolution.
All right, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.